Have you ever had something strange happen in your leg and instantly dismissed it? A little swelling, a little numbness, a cramp when you walk, a sore that's taking its time to heal. Most people brush those things off because legs are easy to ignore. They're far away, they work hard, they get tired, and we've all been trained to think that discomfort in the legs is just one of those normal things that happens when you get older. Sit too much, stand too much, exercise too much, or sleep in a weird position. But here's the truth. Your legs are often one of the first places your body reveals that something deeper may be going on with circulation, blood flow, nerve function, or the health of your blood vessels. And I want to be clear right from the start, this is not one of those videos where every tiny ache becomes a dramatic emergency. That kind of content helps nobody. The goal here is not fear. The goal is pattern recognition. Because when you understand which leg symptoms are ordinary and which ones are meaningful, you stop ignoring signals that actually matter. What I want to do today is walk you through 7 leg warning signs that deserve real attention, and more importantly, why they matter. Because once you understand the biology behind them, they stop looking random. They start looking like messages, and your body is sending those messages for a reason. So let's build this from the ground up. Your legs depend on 3 major systems working together every second. Arteries have to deliver oxygen-rich blood down into the tissues. Veins have to bring blood back up toward the heart, and nerves have to carry signals so you can feel, move, and respond to injury. If any one of those systems starts struggling, the legs often show it early. Not because the legs are weak, but because they are demanding. They need steady blood flow. They need intact sensation. They need pressure, temperature, and tissue repair to all stay coordinated. When that balance starts to break, the signs tend to show up in very visible, very physical ways. So let's go through the 7 signs. The first warning sign is swelling in one leg, especially if it appears suddenly or without a clear reason. This is one of the most important patterns to notice. Not both legs after a long flight, not both ankles after standing all day. I'm talking specifically about one leg becoming swollen in a way that feels different from your normal. Why does that matter? Because one-sided swelling can be a clue that blood is not moving through the veins the way it should. One of the possibilities doctors think about here is a deep vein clot. That's a clot forming in a deep vein, most often in the lower leg, thigh, or pelvis. And one of the classic patterns is swelling in one leg, often along with pain, tenderness, warmth, or discoloration. Now, not every swollen leg means a clot, of course not. But this is exactly the kind of symptom people delay on because they assume they pulled a muscle or slept wrong or need to drink more water. The issue is that a vein problem can look deceptively ordinary at the start. And that brings us naturally to sign number 2, a leg that becomes warm, red, or unusually tender. This is where the pattern starts becoming more specific. Swelling by itself can have many causes, but swelling plus warmth, redness, or tenderness should make you pay closer attention. Why? Because warmth and redness often mean that something inflammatory or circulatory is happening in that tissue. In the context of a vein problem, especially a clot, common signs can include swelling, pain or tenderness, warmth, and redness or discoloration in the affected leg. In other words, your leg is not just uncomfortable, it is behaving differently. And this is the part most people miss. The body doesn't always announce serious problems with dramatic pain. Sometimes it announces them with asymmetry. One side looks different. One side feels hotter. One side feels tighter. One side suddenly becomes the leg you keep noticing all day. That asymmetry matters. Now let's shift from veins to arteries because the next warning sign comes from a completely different kind of blood flow problem. Cramping, aching, or burning in the calf, thigh, buttock, or foot when you walk, and then relief when you stop. This pattern has a name, claudication, and it is one of the most useful symptoms in medicine because it tells such a clear story. Your muscles need more blood when they work. If the arteries delivering blood to the legs are narrowed, the muscles don't get enough oxygen during activity. So they start hurting, then you stop walking, the demand drops, and the pain fades. That is not random pain. That is a supply and demand problem. A lot of people assume this kind of leg pain is just age, stiffness, or bad conditioning. And sometimes it is, But pain that shows up predictably with walking and eases with rest is a pattern worth respecting because it can point to reduced blood flow in the legs. What makes this even more important is that people often wait until it gets worse. At first, it only happens on hills, then stairs, then normal walking, then shorter distances. And over time, what started as just a weird calf cramp becomes a sign that circulation has been struggling for a while. Your body is not being dramatic there, it is being precise, which leads directly into warning sign number 4, a foot or lower leg that feels colder than the other one or changes color in a way that seems unusual. This is another big clue that blood flow may not be normal. When circulation is reduced, the tissues downstream can start showing it through temperature and color. A foot may feel cool to the touch, the skin may look pale, sometimes it may look bluish, sometimes darker, sometimes red in one position and pale in another. And I want to pause on that for a second because color changes are easy to dismiss unless they are extreme. But tissues that are getting less blood do not always scream. Sometimes they just subtly lose their normal tone. They stop looking well supplied. That matters because blood is not just oxygen, blood is delivery, blood is warmth, blood is repair, blood is maintenance. If enough blood is not reaching the area, the skin, nails, hair growth, and healing capacity can all begin to reflect that, which is why sign number 5 is so important. Numbness, tingling, or loss of feeling in the feet or lower legs. People ignore this one constantly. A foot goes numb. Toes tingle. You lose sensation for a moment. Maybe it happens at night. Maybe it happens during walking. Maybe you notice that small injuries don't feel the way they used to. The reason this matters is that sensation is protective. Feeling is not just comfort. Feeling is information. It tells you when something is too hot, too sharp, too tight, too injured, too inflamed. When that sensation starts fading, especially in the feet, problems can multiply quietly. Nerve damage can cause tingling, pain, and loss of feeling. Poor circulation can also contribute to numbness, and once feeling drops, small cuts, blisters, pressure spots, or sores are much easier to miss. Something tiny can sit there longer than it should, get worse than it should, and heal more slowly than it should because it was never really noticed in time. That is why loss of feeling is not a minor convenience issue. It can be the thing that allows bigger problems to grow in silence. And silence is a perfect setup for warning sign number 6, a sore, cut, or wound on the leg, foot, or toes that heals very slowly or doesn't heal at all. This is one of the clearest signs that the tissue environment may be under stress. Healthy tissue repairs itself. Not instantly, obviously, but steadily. There is a basic rhythm to healing. Blood brings oxygen. Immune cells do cleanup. New tissue forms. The area improves. When that process stalls, you have to ask why. One possibility is poor arterial blood flow. If the tissue isn't getting enough oxygen and nutrients, healing can slow dramatically. Another possibility is loss of sensation, where an injury keeps getting aggravated because the person doesn't fully feel it. And another is venous disease, where blood return from the lower leg is impaired and the skin environment becomes more vulnerable over time. This is why wounds that linger matter so much. They are not just skin deep. They can be a visible sign of a deeper circulation or nerve problem. And if the sore is not just slow to heal, but is becoming more painful, more swollen, producing discharge, or developing surrounding skin changes, that matters even more. Which brings us to warning sign number 7. Persistent lower leg skin changes, especially darkening, hardening, itching, scaling, ankle swelling, or an open ulcer near the lower leg. This is the warning sign people often live with for months or years because it develops gradually. The ankles swell, the skin around the lower leg starts looking darker, maybe brownish, reddish, or discolored. The area feels tight or hard. The skin becomes flaky, itchy, or irritated. The leg feels heavy. Then one day, an actual open sore appears, often between the knee and the ankle, and it just doesn't heal well. That pattern can reflect chronic problems with blood returning through the veins. In other words, the issue is not getting blood down into the leg. The issue is getting blood back out efficiently. And when that venous pressure stays elevated for too long, the skin starts paying the price. I think this is one of the most misunderstood warning signs because it doesn't always arrive with a dramatic event. It arrives slowly, quietly, it blends into normal life. People adapt to it, they stop seeing it, and then the skin finally breaks down enough that it can't be ignored anymore. But the body was talking long before that ulcer formed. Now, if you step back and look at these 7 signs together, something important becomes obvious. They are not random. One-sided swelling, warmth, and redness point your attention toward the veins. Pain with walking, a cold or pale foot, color changes, pain at rest, and non-healing wounds point your attention toward reduced arterial blood flow. Numbness, tingling, and loss of feeling point your attention toward nerve trouble, which can make injuries easier to miss and harder to manage. And chronic swelling with dark, hardened, itchy lower leg skin points toward long-term venous strain. Different system, different mechanism, different message, but the same basic lesson. Your legs are not just carrying you around. They are reporting on the health of circulation, nerves, and tissue repair in real time. And I think that changes how you look at leg symptoms because the average person doesn't ignore leg warning signs out of laziness. They ignore them because the signs feel familiar. Legs get sore, legs swell, legs cramp, feet tingle, skin gets dry. None of that sounds dramatic on its own, but biology is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is patterned. Sometimes the body repeats the same signal until you finally understand what category it belongs to. That is really what this video is about. Not panic, not self-diagnosis, pattern recognition. If a symptom is brief, obvious, and clearly explained by something simple, that's one thing. But if you notice one-sided swelling, warmth, redness, walking pain that keeps repeating, unusual coldness, loss of feeling, slow healing sores, or persistent skin changes in the lower leg, those are not the kinds of signs to keep brushing aside month after month. Because the longer a circulation problem or nerve problem goes unrecognized, the more the body has to compensate, and compensation works for a while until it doesn't. Your legs tell the story early if you know how to read them. So the next time something in your leg feels off, don't just ask, "Can I still walk on it?" Ask a better question. Is this a pattern my body keeps trying to show me? That question alone can change what you catch, how early you catch it, and how seriously you take the signals that actually matter. And that is the whole point of paying attention. If this video helped you think about leg symptoms a little differently, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you want, leave a comment telling me which of these warning signs surprised you most. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.